Hey guys, welcome back to Morgan Hill Farm. So I'm hoping that the weather cooperates with me. We're having a cold front come in, and so the wind has picked up just a little bit. I wanted to be down in the garden actually giving you a fall garden tour today, but we can't do that. The wind is just too bad, and the microphone would pick it up and it would not be a very nice video to watch. So anyway, so we are up here on the porch, and I'm hoping that this sort of will act as a block for the wind. But I kind of feel like we're at the point where we are pretty much fully recovered at our home from Hurricane Helene. We have been doing a lot of large bonfires, burning all of the trees that came down. We have been cleaning up the garden just because of the massive amounts of rain. A lot of the garden had washed away. We were forecasted to get 2 to 4 inches of rain, and we got 12 inches. So you can just imagine how much of a mess it was down there. I did end up losing a good amount of my second planting of fall crops from wind burn. Also, a lot of my broccoli from my first planting, you know, those tend to grow a little more upright. So a lot of those had kind of folded over and either snapped or the roots had come out of the ground enough where the plant just kind of wilted and succumbed to that. But if you remember a few videos ago, I had shared with you guys that I had really felt pressed to plant more during this season, and so I did actually plant double what we needed. So we're very happy that we were able to get that in, because that is really going to save us, and it looks like we'll be able to bring in enough food for the winter and the fall and winter seasons to feed our family. So we're very, very grateful for that. But with the last few videos that I put out, you guys could probably tell that those videos had been filmed previously. Because the cell phone service and the internet service were so poor, I was not able to upload anything else but that one video that I sent out the day of or the day after Helene had occurred. Those videos that I had put out, I had already uploaded previously, and they had just ended up getting pushed back because there was more pressing content that I wanted to get out to you. So I was able to get on and just sort of schedule those to go out so that there was still content going out for you guys. But this is really the first video that I'm filming after that Helene update that I sent out. Now, power has been restored to most of my town. The neighboring town, that's a different story. A lot of them are still without power. They had a lot more devastation than we did. A lot of homes were lost. Still a lot of tree work to be done out there. We have, gosh, our internet is still very spotty. It did come back on and then it went back out again, and now I think that we're okay, but a lot of people in my town still do not have internet service. The cell phone service was also super spotty, but after about a week, that seemed to kind of return to normal. So that was really good. But I wanted to share with you guys today about something that you probably didn't see during Helene. Now, we all saw the mass devastation in western North Carolina. The amounts of rain that they got and the flooding was just astronomical. Nobody was ready for that. There's no way you could have prepared for that. In fact, even the forecasts for that only showed that they were going to get 12 to 15 inches of rain, and they got somewhere between 24 to 31 inches. They said it was something like 30 to 40 trillion gallons of water dumped in that area so quickly, enough to cover the entire state of North Carolina in about 3.5 inches of water. So, I mean, you've seen the footage. I mean, you can see the devastation. It's just so dire up there. And what you saw in those communities was you saw people coming together. You saw people helping neighbors, searching for loved ones, searching for neighbors, searching for their community members. You've seen people from all over the United States going to this area to help in those efforts. Donations. People have even brought up their own personal equipment. I know people that have brought up their own equipment to help get roads reestablished, to help these people get access to the outside world, to help get them baby formula. People are bringing up their own personal aircraft. We even have some people here at our local Walmart that have U-Haul trucks where you can just donate and you can fill those trucks, and once they're full, they'll go right up there and donate. So that has been such a wonderful outpouring of love and kindness. But what I wanted to share with you today is what it looks like in a town that really the major effect of that hurricane was a prolonged power outage. What does that look like? These people's lives were pretty much still intact here in my town. Like I said, there were a few that lost their homes, but the majority of people did not. We were without power here about 4 to 5 days, but a lot of people in my town were without power for up to 2 weeks. The internet service, like I said, is back on now for us, but a lot of people still do not have it. And of course, the cell phone service during that time was also extremely poor. You were very lucky to even be able to get online. So I'm going to speak to you today on what happened here, on what I saw, what my neighbors saw, things that were posted on our local community pages, the things that you didn't see happening, the things that happened with people who didn't lose everything, just people that had kind of lost the access to food, the access to water, and the modern conveniences that we are all really, really used to. So what does that look like? Well, on the first day after the storm had kind of passed, the winds had died down around noontime. That's when people started to go out and kind of see, you know, is there a restaurant open? I don't have electricity, so, you know, let's go see if we can get a hot meal somewhere. Maybe I need to run to Walmart and get a few items. And that's when they realized that a lot of the roads were impassable. There were a lot of large trees down. If they could get around the trees and down into the main part of town, you know, they saw that there was nothing open there except for one gas station, which was not pumping gas. The store shelves there were stripped bare, and I guess in a neighboring town also there was one McDonald's open with a limited menu, but they said that that was just jam-packed with people trying to get food for their families. So that was day one. On day two, this is when I believe that people really started to realize that their refrigerators and their freezers were starting to allow the food to spoil, and that they needed to do something to mitigate that. So this is when you have people going to Walmart, which is now open, to get dry goods. You have people going to other stores to look for generators, and you have people looking for gas. So Walmart, all of the cooler cases and the meat cases and all of that refrigerated section, that was completely gone because they had thrown that out. That food had spoiled. But the main part of the store still looked relatively good. So once Walmart was up and running, a lot of people were there buying pasta, bread, all of those type of main staples, until, of course, that ran out. You also had people going to True Value, Lowe's, Home Depot, searching for generators. Now, we're kind of a small rural community here, so we didn't have a huge amount of those items just kind of stockpiled here in our local stores. So those ran out very quickly, as well as those pre-filled 20-pound propane tanks that everybody wanted to be able to run their generators. A lot of generators now are dual fuel, and I think a lot of people have those because propane was non-existent. So you had people buying those propane tanks, thinking that they were full, they were empty, and then when they would bring them back to the store, they were giving the employees such a hard time that Lowe's and Home Depot had to come on and actually post and say, you know, we don't have generators, we have no propane, we're so sorry for the inconvenience, because they were just getting such an influx of customers looking for those items and getting frustrated there. Because people at this point, I believe, have started to panic. You also had super long gas lines, people waiting for hours to get gas. Tempers are starting to flare at this point. We had one guy pull into a gas station. My neighbor was there, he told me the story. One guy pull into a gas station, and another guy came in and thought that he had cut him in line. So there was beginning to be an altercation. My friend said, hey, you know, I'm done. You know, you can just take my spot and it'll be all good. You know, the one guy, he had one gas pump. He was going to let the other guy who was angry take his gas pump. But these two were so heated that they were not even trying to find a solution here. They just were ready to, you know, go at it with each other. And so this is just like day two, day three-ish of people being without power, without food. Water was non-existent. So if you were on city water, a lot of that water was still available for the homes. But if you had a well and not a generator, there was no way that you were bringing water into your home. So that was something that a lot of people really were searching for as well. Now, during this time, we saw a lot of posts on social media really shaming people. People had taken pictures of individuals at Walmart that had bread and pasta and basically had, you know, a cart full of non-perishable items. And, you know, they were being called stupid. They were being called hoarders. They were being called selfish. You know, you don't need to take all that food, put it back. Also, people who were filling gas cans, so not necessarily their gas tank in their car, but gas cans. You know, they were shaming people for taking too much gas. You know, you don't need that. You know, the other side of that story is you don't know if that person needs it or not. Perhaps they have someone with medical needs that needs a generator in order to run their oxygen tank. Perhaps they need that generator because, you know, if they're a homesteader, they have stored up all of this food over the entire summer season. That was our case. We had stored up all this food, and just to let it go to waste for a, you know, day or week or 2-week period without power would have been a huge loss for us. So those were some of the things that we were seeing here. Just a lot of real unkindness on social media, a lot of high tempers when you were out and about. We also had so many people out looking for supplies that the roadways were just jam-packed. Nate had gone out and he said, wow, he said it was just, the traffic was horrendous. We even had linemen posting on our local social media page, local community page, saying, hey, if you could just stay at home, because the traffic was really holding them up from trying to get the power established in the main part of town where all of the businesses were. So that is how just kind of chaotic and busy and congested it was in that part of town with people looking for supplies. We also had a lot of people that had waited to buy items, and once they you know, got up to the registers or were able to pay, they realized that they couldn't pay with their debit cards. So cash was another thing that people did not have. And in a society where we are so used to paying with a digital payment system, cash is not something that people carry. And so even if that item was available, they weren't able to get it. People have a big stigma about preppers. You know, they think they're selfish. They think they're stupid. They think, you know, that they're just living in this other world. But I will tell you, if you are prepared during a situation, you will not be a strain on your local resources. You will not have to be out in the chaos dealing with what's going on. You can just kind of be at home and know that you have everything that you need. And you will be able to help people if they need it. And if you're willing to do that, you will actually be a help to your community. You will have time to go out and take your chainsaw and help your neighbor get trees out of their driveway, or help a road become passable because you're not out searching for food and fuel and generators to help your own family because you already had that and you were prepared. So I think that we have to understand that even though we have people who are pouring out their hearts and their time and their money to help others in a disaster like this, that we can't negate the fact that there are some people that are not sharing love and kindness and help. There are some people that are panicking because they cannot find what they need for their family, and that is coming out in aggression and anger and causing safety concerns. You have some people that are running scams right now and that are trying to capitalize. Some people are posing as FEMA, trying to get access into people's homes out here, saying that they're there to assess damage. And so that's another thing. We have to realize that the world inherently is not always good, and so for you to be prepared is really in your best interest. And I think the number one thing that I've learned out of this is a generator. If you can buy a generator, now I would say if you can get a dual fuel generator, that would be the best way to go. That's one that's going to burn a gas as well as a propane. Propane burns so much cleaner. When we were running our generator, I didn't smell one fume from that, and it was fairly close to the house. Now it was loud, and I wasn't super thrilled with the amount of noise that it generated because, one, it was annoying, and two, in a situation where you're going for extended periods of time without power, if it had lasted longer, I would have been worried about a safety concern about someone knowing, hey, I've got a generator. My neighbor over here had a generator. I could hear it. So there are solar generator options that are much quieter, but those can run you quite a bit of money. I mean, you're looking at $3,000 to $5,000 for one that maybe is a 3,000 kilowatt system. And that's going to run some stuff, but it might not run a well pump if you're on a well. It might not run all your refrigerators and freezers. You just kind of have to look at that, but that's a pretty big expense. Another thing is always just make sure that you guys keep your cars full, and also make sure that you're keeping your gas tanks or your gas cans at your home full. And it's really easy to stock up on propane. Propane does not go bad as fast as gas does. You can get a 120-gallon tank where you can have 100 gallons of propane just on your property. You can mount it on the back side of your house and have it ready there for your generator if need be. Or you can pick up a lot of those 20-pound propane tanks that you see at Lowe's and Tractor Supply and just have a few of those on hand and keep those. And, you know, I mean, I've honestly never had propane go bad when it's in one of those tanks. Now, I have had gasoline propane go bad. So that's why I recommend that dual fuel generator. I think that's a great way to go. So making sure that you have things like spark plugs for that generator and also oil for the generator, because every 50 hours you really want to be changing that oil out. And then if you have a spark plug that goes bad, that generator is not going to run, and you do not want to be pulling things out of your other small equipment or trying to find that in town, because it's just not a good scenario. So just making sure that you have those things to keep that generator up and running. Also, I mentioned earlier cash. Make sure that you always have cash on hand. If you have these things ready, whether you know a disaster is coming or not, you are going to be so much better off if you just already have these things in your home. So cash. You can't buy anything with digital currency when the electricity is down or those internet systems are down. So having that and having small bills, maybe take a $100 bill and take it to the bank and ask them for $101 bills. Because even if you can go to a store and buy something for cash and you have a $100 bill but they don't have change for it, are you really going to want to, pass that over to them without getting the other money back? And another thing too, speaking about cash and money, if you already have your supplies on hand, you're not going to be subject to that price gouging. I think I heard something with Hurricane Milton that people were charging like $1,000 a night at the hotels, and there was like a 2-night minimum. Here, people were really price gouging for generators, private people that had bought them and that were offering them up on Facebook. So that was another thing. But if you already have these things, you don't have to worry about trying to shell out all of this money that you may not have just to, provide for your family during that emergency. And then lastly is going to be your food and your water. So if you have a well, you need to know that you either need a generator that's strong enough to operate and start up that well pump, or you need to maybe have a hand pump for that. If you have city water, you might be okay. That water still may be coming into your home, but there's other things like life straws. Each one of those little life straws, you can get them at Costco, you can get them on Amazon. Those will filter 1,000 gallons of water. You can get a Berkey system. There's a lot of different types of water purification tablets and water filtering items. There's water bottles that you can get that you can just fill and it will filter it out before you actually drink it from the top of it. So there's a lot of options there, maybe even rain catchment. So definitely think about water. Like I said, water was something that was non-existent here for many, many days. And in fact, when they did start distributing it, they had to have the police standing up at the distribution areas just to make sure that everybody was staying in line and everybody, that nobody was going to cause a problem. And then the last thing is food. So if you can get your shelf-stable foods, if you could do your own home canned food so that you have meat and things that are on the shelf. I just canned up a ton of rotisserie chicken. I like to go to Costco and Sam's and buy a bunch of rotisserie chickens. You debone those, throw it in a jar and can that up. I've got a video coming out on that because that produces the most delicious canned chicken. It's not dry, it's not rubbery, it's just delicious. It makes great soups, great casseroles. So I'm going to get this video out for you on canning rotisserie chicken, but that's something to think of as well. And then you also need the supplies to be able to preserve your food. So if you were faced with an extended power outage, and let's say you had 100 gallons of propane, that's probably going to run you about 100 hours. Okay, 100 hours of generator running. Now, we had to run our generator between 8 to 10 hours a day to keep our freezers frozen. So you need to know how much fuel you're using, but if you run out, you need to be able to have that food preservation equipment on hand so that you can pull that food out of your freezers, get it thawed, and get it canned so that it's shelf stable. I could do that with everything in my freezers. That'd be a lot of work, and I wouldn't want to do it, but if I had the supplies, I could, and that would save us a ton of money and a ton of food. So anyways, guys, just a few thoughts, just a bit of information there of what you might not be seeing in the aftermath of Helene. Our prayers go out to all of those who were affected and all of the devastation. It's just so, so terribly sad. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you guys have anything further to add to that list, please put it in the comments below, and we will see you in the next video.